Hello and welcome to Up on the Roof. Today I have Keith and he's from the Comfortable Home Project. Hi Keith, how's it going?
Yeah, really good. It's not too early here in Perth, but it's early. So, life is good and the sun is shining outside. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I didn't have to drag you out of bed, I hope. The time difference?
No. Yeah, no, I would be like, I'm not a morning person. Yeah, so.
So tell us what you do, Keith. Tell us where you're at.
So I am the founder of the Comfortable Home Project, and what we are trying to do is let people know that they have the option to live in a house which is comfortable most days of the year without a big energy expense. Because at this point, only sort of around 5% of new builds are built in this way, and I think it's tragic.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get the word out. It's, really energy efficiency is an important part of the solution to climate change, but it is also, we are the Comfortable Home Project. What we're really trying to do is let people know that they could live in a house that's just comfortable.
Yeah.
So.
And is there a gap? Would you say that there's a gap between, construction of homes and building of homes, building codes, and then all the way through? So, building a home efficiently the first time is better than trying to retrofit it later.
Yes. Here in Western Australia, there are 18,000 new houses built every year.
Wow.
So there are a lot of people that are working on the retrofitting end of it. What we want to try and do is get every one of those new houses to be built so they don't need to be retrofitted later. Mm-hmm. And then also there's a lot of, within the design area, I see a lot of houses that are built perfectly backwards. So they are built to be hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Mm-hmm. And no amount of retrofitting is going to move the lounge room to the northern side of the house if it's been built on the southern side of the house.
So what would you say is the biggest barrier? What's the biggest barrier here?
I think the biggest barrier to this is that the people who are mostly providing services to this sector of the housing area are small business owners, mm-hmm. and most of them are terrible at marketing. So they're talking, I hate the phrase sustainable housing because it speaks to a very tiny sector, my hippie friends, and my hippie friends are all broke. So what we need to be doing is talking to mainstream Australians, the people who, when you say something is sustainable, that translates to them to twice as expensive and half as good.
Yeah.
And what we really want to say is this is a mature way of designing a building. It works well. You could just be comfortable.
Yeah.
So the way so that's the biggest issue. The other issue is the volume builders who they want to keep building the same house. They've worked out the cost of that and they can offer the cheapest possible product by building the same house over and over and over again. They get really good at it.
Well, I'd imagine if they just re-looked at that with where they situate the lounge room might be a bit of a smarter way as well. Surely they can adapt their design.
Well, that is the issue, is that it becomes a design problem. You have to design the house for the block, for the orientation, for what the neighbors are, where the prevailing breeze is. So it requires thinking about each individual house. It's not hard, but it adds a cost to the build. Mm-hmm. And they're all about the cheapest possible option. There's a lot about changing our own culture about what we think about housing here. Mm-hmm. And I could go on for hours about the culture of housing here. But really what I want people to know is that they could live in a house with no air conditioning. They might install an air conditioner because there's 2 or 3 weird days of the year. But, mm-hmm. Christmas Day, it was 42.3 degrees. So mm-hmm. someone asked me, how are the houses performing that the people you're talking to are living in? And so I messaged half a dozen people. Average temperature was around 25 degrees inside. no air conditioners, ceiling fans.
Mm-hmm.
One of the 6 people had an air conditioner. He didn't turn it on. Maybe he turned it on for an hour at the end of the day. So the difference between running your air conditioner in summer 24/7 and running it for an hour in the morning on a cold winter morning. But, the guy with the air conditioner, I went to his house. We shot an interview with him back in June. It was
Yeah.
the first really cold winter's day. It was just bitter. There was this howling gale outside. Walked inside. First thing I did was take off my jacket because it was toasty warm in there. And I said,
Yeah. Wow.
Jim, have you been running the air conditioner? Because, everybody knows the greenies are big cheaters. He said, no, hasn't been on, for 24 hours. The warmth you're feeling is the yesterday's sun warming up the floor. First thing all the film crew did was take off their shoes. So they're all wandering around in their stocking feet because the tile floor just felt so fantastic. I'm in the shot, so I have to look like a civilized person and leave my shoes on, but they're all in stocking feet, just enjoying the toasty, warm floor. And I thought it was really unfair, but that's what living in a passive solar house is like, suspending your winter in your stocking feet going, oh, the floor feels so good.
My mother built a passive solar house, so we never had a heater, or we didn't have aircon either. So we were often laying in front of the windows and on the tiles, because the tiles were quite warmer. So I've lived with one for many years in my younger days.
Yeah, it becomes normal. Another one of the interviews that I did, that's what he said. There's these big glass windows and the tile floor. And he said, the girls just come down in the morning and they just lie on the tile floor and read their books or do their drawing or whatever. It's like, they don't sit on the couches. They sit on the tile floor in winter.
Yeah. And I suppose it's different than just going and installing solar or battery storage or upgrading your energy appliances. It's actually maximizing the design of the house, which will then over time cost you less.
So there's 2 things with that. I hate to say this, and you'll probably have to edit this out later, but you may not know this, but solar panels are a technology, and technology always fails. Whether it's a 25-year lifetime or a 50-year lifetime, it eventually will die. But a design will continue to operate as long as the building still stands. So. Right. Another person I interviewed had a house down in Bridgetown, which I call Fridge Town because it's consistently the coldest place. He comes up to Perth and does training. So he was away from his house for a week in July. He closed the curtains, comes back home. House is 24 degrees inside. It has had no heating, nothing turned on for a week. In July, average temperature has been sort of 1 or 2 degrees outside. It's 24 degrees inside. And you know what that's like? You walk into the house sometimes where you've been away and it's just like so cold in there and you can't, it takes you 24 hours to get the temperature back up again. He just walked in and la, 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 la. It's 24 degrees inside, which is pretty comfortable to be in. No energy for a week.
Yeah. So what's your call to action? Because I know even with building, not every block can be north facing. Not every block is able to get direct sunlight into it, depending on what sort of block, how big it is and where it's situated on the land. So would you say that some of even the street planning, it needs to go all the way back to how we plan our streets, how we planned our division of land, and also what's your call to action for your company and also where you want to take it?
Well, the call to action really is if you are building or if you know someone who is building, make sure the steps are educate yourself about passive solar because being energy efficient is starting to be talked around. There are builders out there, you'll find this hard to believe, but there are builders out there who will say, green home. But what they're building, it's then in the fine print down the bottom, it says 6 stars. 6 stars is the minimum. 6 stars means it has a roof, it has windows, it has doors, it is not currently on fire. So not on fire is that's as far as they.
It's got a water tank to put the fire out.
Yes, that's it. So, but there's no kind of limitation they can say it's a green home because they've written the typeface in green. So the first step is to do a little bit of education, find out more about it so you can, sense some bullshit. Next is to get yourself a good building designer who has a proven track record in building energy efficient houses. So a friend of mine, Matt Walwork, small plug, he designed a house recently. They'd gone to a project builder, gotten a drawing that they liked. He looked at it, he said, first of all the living areas are on the south side. Mm-hmm. So you will not get any solar gains, no warming in winter at all. So he took the building, he turned it around, he cut about a third of the house out of it. The building industry makes its money on the square meter. Mm-hmm. So their marketing is all about bigger and bigger. And if you look at sort of heat maps of how people travel around in their houses, about a third of the modern house, we in Australia have the biggest houses in the world, mm-hmm. and at least a third of that is completely wasted space. And so Matt cut a third out of this house that they were never going to use, and saved them $50,000 on the build cost.
Bingo.
So the savings comes in building house that you don't need, don't want. I've seen drawings where they had 3 different meeting rooms in their house. They had the rumpus room, whatever that is, the theater room, and then a third room of indistinct purpose. And I said to the person whose house I got in a little bit of trouble, I said, I would only build this house if I hated my wife and children, because you will never see them. So they could have eliminated, and this was a 2-story house, they could eliminate probably half the house, have better, because good design facilitates bringing people together, building a sense of connection, rather than separating people into their, and if you hate your wife and children, that makes sense. By all means, build that house. But most people don't.
That's good food for thought, isn't it? Really, people need to put their thinking caps on. Yes,
So people can Google, or I can send you the link. There's an image that floats around on the web that's was like a room use heat map, and you see these little red dots where people are spending time. And there's a piano room, and no one ever goes in that room. Because it's got a piano in it. Why would you? Anyway, sorry, being bad.
So tell us your website, Keith. Tell us where we can find out some more, and how do we contact you?
So the place where I spend the most time is LinkedIn. And so it's Keith Hutchings. I think I'm the only Keith Hutchings in Perth on LinkedIn. I'm the only Keith Hutchings in Perth on LinkedIn wearing a Hawaiian shirt, so I'll be easy to find.
Perfect.
The website is thecomfortablehomeproject.com.au. And I think we might be the only comfortable home project. So you can search it, it will turn up. And you've got the links anyway, so
I'll put the links up anyway. But
cousin.
Go for it.
No, that was it.
I was just going to say, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes.
Go for it.
I'm this is something I've said often, and so there are people who are so competitive that when their energy bill arrives every month, quarter, whatever they do, if it's bigger than the month before, they get really excited because it means they've won, and winning is everything. Now, you may not be like that. You may not have any friends that are like that, but those people exist. They must, or I wouldn't tell you about them. If you are not like that, and you are thinking about building a home at some point in the future, then learn about passive solar, or there's a sort of level. You mentioned the block that is shaded and, you know, is oriented and wrong. There is also a design method called passive house, which is kind of the next, some people call it passive solar on steroids. So there are ways, there are design methods, there are ways to work with a block that maybe is shaded all the time. There's a lot that can be done with this. Unless you want to spend the rest of your life paying high energy bills, if you're thinking about building, look into passive solar design.
I agree 100%. And I think getting it done first is better than doing it later. I think build smarter, you know, work harder in the beginning to work less into the future.
Yeah, it's, you know.
And every little bit counts. You know, they're at the expense.
Well, it's that kind of short-term versus long-term thinking. Do you spend a little bit more money on the design or get a better design now? Or do you spend the rest of your life doomed to high energy bills and being uncomfortable most of the time? Because living in an air-conditioned space is terrible. It's a terrible way to live. It's, you know, you cold air blowing on your neck. It's never comfortable. The place is sealed up. It's all in all fairly awful. Or you could just be in a house that's comfortable most days of the year. I take the second one.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. What you've said has given us a lot to think about.
Yeah, thanks for that. And, you know, I want to say this is not a design that's in kind of competition with solar. They work really well together. If you have an energy efficient house, you're going to need less solar, which is less money up front. And then you're just more comfortable.
I agree.
And that's what it's all about.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I'll look forward to hearing from your listeners over LinkedIn, where I spend my whole life having too much fun.
Thanks.